Hello everyone, it's Coasters in Places here today, and I'm coming at you with a new plus size riders video guide. And this video I will cover Universal Resort in Orlando, Florida, and I'm going to cover both Universal Studios as well as the Universal Islands of Adventure. I will not be covering Volcano Bay in this video, but if you would like a video on Volcano Bay, please let me know in the comment down below. If I get enough interest, I can definitely do a Volcano Bay video as well. So Universal in Orlando is a park that I know a lot of people visit. I probably have a lot of questions about, like, if you are planning a trip with your family, you want to know, hey, as a plus size person, what can I ride? Will I have a good time? Is there anything I should know or anything I should avoid? And I'm definitely here to answer the questions about every single ride that Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure have, and how you as a plus size person will fit on those rides. So, for reference, the last time I went to Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure, I weighed about 295 pounds. I am 5'6". I carry most of my weight in my stomach, along with my hips and some of my thighs. I don't really carry a lot of weight in my calves or chest area. I would say both my waist and hips were somewhere in the 50 some odd range. Of course, I'm not at that current weight right now, so I can't measure myself. My chest would be somewhere in the low 40s for sure, though. So, again, I have a bigger stomach, bigger hips. So just to give you a reference point, 290, 5'6". So let's go ahead and get started. I'll be talking about every single ride here, and we will start at Universal Studios. First up is Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket, which does have a test seat out front. And just a note, if there is a test seat out front, always try it. I know some people can stare at you when you are trying to test seat, but just try it anyways. Trust me, it's going to save you from waiting in line and having to possibly walk off of the ride when you get up there in line. So the restraint comes across from the side and goes across your waist. If you have a big stomach, this ride will potentially be a problem ride for you. This is one I couldn't ride because my stomach is just too big. If you have a big chest or you broad shoulders, anything like that, you should be absolutely fine to ride, no problems. The width of the seat could possibly cause some problems too if you have big thighs or big hips, but really if you have a big waist, this ride could pose some issues for you for sure. Also, a quick note, Universal does state that guests that have a waist size over 40 inches could potentially experience issues on certain rides and attractions. That is just their general guidance. That does not mean that if you do have a waist above 40 inches that you're going to have problems, because I'm certain there's people that do have a waist above 40 inches that don't have problems. It's just what their statement is. But anyway, I'm going to talk about two rides, which are Revenge of the Mummy and Harry Potter Escape from Gringotts. They both have very similar seat styles, and they have a test seat out front. In the back row of Revenge of the Mummy, there is slightly more legroom if you are needing that legroom. So these two rides could pose an issue if you have a big waist. There's a green light that you have to see in the test seat to be able to ride. I was really close on both of these, but unfortunately just couldn't get it to go. Sadly, so I wasn't able to ride either of these, but very similar. A trick may be to quickly sit down and pull the lap bar like with you as you're sitting down. Now that could be too tight on you depending on your level of comfort, but I've heard that is a strategy to get into this ride vehicle and make yourself fit. I didn't try that, or I would have, because usually I'm okay with being kind of smushed in a ride. I know some people aren't though. But me, I can. Doesn't really bother me as much. And then the other thing to note is the Harry Potter Escape from Gringotts has shin guards, and you gotta squeeze your legs like between the lap bar, and if you have long legs, broad legs, that shin guard could pose an issue even if your stomach isn't that big, because your legs unfortunately get in the way. So that is just something to be mindful of. But again, check out these test seats and just keep in mind if you do have a big waist or perhaps tall with bigger calves, especially for the Harry Potter one, you may have some issues, unfortunately. This is Kang & Kodo's Hurl and Twirl. So this ride will have individual seats here. As you can see, like little ride vehicles you can ride. I think you can fit with another plus size person, or if you're wanting to ride with a child side by side. It does have just a seat belt as a restraint. The seat belt, however, I found to be really, really long. And the ride vehicle not to be too narrow. But if you are worried about that, you can always ask to ride by yourself, and you should have absolutely no problems at all fitting on this. Alright, these three rides, Despicable Me, Minion Mayhem, The Simpsons Ride, and Transformers The Ride 3D, all have a very similar restraint system and seat style going on. It's just a shared lap bar across the whole row, usually 4 seats, and it just comes down to the largest person. It's at your stomach level. The only thing to be mindful of is if you are riding with a smaller child, they may not feel as restrained if you are the largest person in the row, but they should be perfectly fine and safe. And the seats may be a little narrow or maybe uncomfortable. To get some extra room, I recommend maybe trying to ride in the outside seat. That can help get a little extra room for you, but these three rides honestly shouldn't really pose much of a problem for anybody. Fast and Furious Supercharged Ride just has a bench seat, so it should be accommodating for anybody. Men in Black Alien Attack has an individual lap bar for each individual seat that'll just come down to where your stomach is. I don't find the seats to be too smushy on this ride. I feel like most people won't have an issue with this. Race Through New York, starring Jimmy Fallon, has individual seats, and each seat has a lap bar. There is a test seat available as well, and if you do feel the need that you need it, they do also have seatbelt extenders you can ask for on this ride. So this ride honestly should be accommodating for pretty much everybody. E.T. the Ride. Each seat is individual seats. It looks like kind of like bicycles here. The individual seats, they have an individual lap bar that just comes down to your stomach level, which shouldn't be a big deal. The only thing is these seats to me are very narrow. It doesn't mean you can't fit in them. It just means they can be kind of uncomfortable. So just keep that in mind. Especially if you have wide hips or whatever, they can be a pretty tight squeeze, unfortunately, on E.T. Very last ride I'm going to talk about is the Hogwarts Express, because this ride is in Universal Studios, but it also goes over to Islands of Adventure. It's just a train. It's completely accessible for anybody, no matter your size. You can only ride it, though, if you do have a park-to-park ticket between Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios. So just keep that in mind. And yeah, this is the last ride for Universal Studios. First one's for Island of Adventure. This is the Incredible Hope Coaster, and this is a ride restraint type and a ride that I have a lot of experience with, luckily. So I did fit, but I had to use what is the modified seat, which is the one with the double red seat belts on the left. So the modified seat is just designed to give a little more extra room, especially helpful with like me, where it comes down on my stomach, and that's where I'm having the issues to be able to close the restraint. The regular seat is on the right, just has that single black seat belt, and here it is pictured when it is closed. So this if you've ever rode other B&M coasters, unless it's a vest style B&M restraint, this is going to be the same type. SeaWorld Orlando has several of them, for example. So the problem here is going to be if you have a big stomach or if you have a big chest area. That would be your issues here. Also, if you have pretty wide hips, it can be hard to scoot all the way back into the seat and fit. So what I kind of do is, honestly, like, I feel like the very bottom of like my butt, where like the tailbone is, doesn't actually end up touching, and I sit up straighter, and I feel like that actually helps me get it closed. And I do sometimes have to have the ride attendant push to get it closed. Actually, more times than not, I have to have a ride attendant push to help get it closed. But I can only ride in the modified seat. So honestly, I would check out the modified seat. I would say through your waist size of maybe in the 50s, you could fit in the modified seat. But yeah, definitely check it out. I think this is going to be more accommodating than like some of the other coasters, such as Escape from Gringotts or Rip Ride Rockit. But yeah, definitely use the test seat. And if you do have a bigger chest or bigger stomach, it could potentially pose some issues. Jurassic World Velocicoaster is the next ride I'll be talking about, and I'm sure it's a coaster that many of you all would like to know about, would like to learn how you as a plus size rider may fit in this ride. Okay, so it just has a lap bar that comes down over the shoulders. I have noticed that if you do have bigger legs, it's not going to really be an issue with this ride. The only thing is your stomach. So what I recommend is when you get in the seat, you try to sit up as straight as possible. Use your feet against the seat in front of you, like down at the bottom, for leverage to get yourself as straight as possible. And then actually push down on the side of the restraint where the metal is, instead of right in the front of you, that part of the restraint. And it gives you more leverage. And then if you get that green light, you're good to go. I was able to ride this when it was at 290 pounds. I was able to get the green light on my own once, and another time I had to have somebody push on it for me, and a ride attendant there, but I was able to get it to go without a whole lot of trouble. I mean, it was somewhat squishy, but overall not that unaccommodating. This is Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey, which I unfortunately have to say, in my opinion, is one of the tightest rides, if not the tightest, in the whole park. It does have a test seat. 100% try it out before getting in line. So the reason I feel like this ride is so difficult is because so many different factors can prevent you from riding it as a plus size rider. Anything from if you have broad shoulders, a big chest, a big stomach, even big wide hips, like even hips that are wide but not super wide, can be a problem with this. Because of just how the ride vehicle is designed. I'm not a fan of the design. It's honestly not a great design. But yeah, so you have to pull the over the shoulder restraint down, and it has to get 2 clicks. So you can see you're kind of like in a box here, which is smushy. That's why when you're bigger in so many different areas, or even just one area, it can be a problem. Honestly, I don't fit. I don't really think I'm that close to fitting. I honestly feel like I'd have to be like 240 to fit. And yeah, just smushing back into there is a problem. My hips, they're just so wide. They're causing me issues. My stomach with the lap bar. I mean, the over the shoulder restraint. It just, unfortunately, it's just one of those rides that's not very accommodating. But still, go check it out regardless. And just with that test seat. Absolutely no harm in trying that test seat for this ride, but just be aware that if you are bigger, this ride is 100% going to give you issues. This is Dr. Doom's Fearful, and it has an over-the-shoulder restraint, comes down into your abdominal area. The seat itself I found wasn't overly narrow. A little bit for wide hips, but luckily they could kind of stick out a little bit by, as you can see here, how the seat is designed. The problem is my stomach. Honestly, I don't know how close I was to fitting. I didn't even have an attendant push down, and it just still wasn't quite fitting, which honestly I've never been a fan of drop towers, so it wasn't like that overly disappointing for me not to be able to fit, not gonna lie. But I have heard of people that are bigger than me being able to ride it though, but main issue is going to be your abdomen, or if you have a big chest area with the over the shoulder restraint. I don't think big hips are going to pose too much of an issue on this particular ride. There is a test seat, so definitely make sure to test that out before riding. Hagrid's Magical Creature Motorbike Adventure is going to be the next ride I'm talking about. Another coaster. And this particular coaster, there's two different seating styles. As you can see, you have a motorcycle seat and then you have a sidecar. I did not fit in the sidecar, but I did fit in the motorcycle seat. The motorcycle seat is more accommodating, probably because of how it's just designed versus the sidecar. I feel like my fat basically has more room to spread out on the motorcycle seat. And you can get more leverage with your feet as well to try to sit up straight to get that restraint down. The sidecar, however, I feel like you're more squished in and it's harder to pull it down. And I'm definitely not the only plus size person that has said this, that the motorcycle seat is easier to fit in than the sidecar. I would say it's, to me, a similar fit as Velocicoaster was. As far as getting into the motorcycle seat. And again, use the test seat to check it out, but honestly, I say if you're around 300 or less, you can probably fit in the motorcycle seat sidecar. Probably looking at like 250, 260 though. But again, just try the test seat out. Flight of the Hippogriff is more of a family style roller coaster. Each row seats 2 people. There is a test seat out front. Each seat will have its own individual lap bar. These ride vehicles can be pretty narrow, so I'd recommend either riding with a small or skinny child to fit, or just ask to have a row with the seat there by yourself. And the lap bar just comes down to your level of comfort where it reaches you. So I don't have to come down like super far, but just note the seats are kind of narrow. This ride is Dudley Do-Right Ripsaddle Falls, that is a mouthful, which is a traditional sit one in front of the other log style flume ride, which I'm used to them not even having a lap bar at all, but this one has a lap bar. It has to just come down. I didn't have any issues with this as a plus size person. If you are super tall, though, you may have some issues with this ride. That is where a lot of people report the problems, is when they're tall. So there is a test seat, and please utilize it to make sure you fit, and also you have to kind of get down in the ride vehicle. So for mobility related purposes, make sure you are able to do that. And also there is an ADA accessible log that would have 3 seats instead of 4 seats. If you think you needed that extra room, you can definitely ask for that one. Jurassic Park River Adventure and The Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man. They both have pretty similar restraint styles, is that there'll be 4 or 5 people in a row, and then a shared lap bar that will come down over the whole row, only comes down to the biggest person in the row. So again, if you are riding with a small child, they may get a little frightened by that, but I assure you they should be secured. Shouldn't be a problem there. So they should be pretty accommodating for pretty much anyone. It's just that lap bar just comes down to the biggest person in the row. Island Reina Kong is just a bench seat, no restraints. It'll be absolutely accommodating for anybody. So this ride is called the Storm Force Accelatron, and it reminds me of like a spinning teacups ride, and it just has like that table in the middle that you spin. It honestly should be accommodating for pretty much everybody, unless for some reason you have really, really, really big stomach, but honestly, it's a very accommodating ride though. Popeye and Bluto's Bilge Right Barges, that is a mouthful as well. It's just a typical raft ride that you've probably seen in other theme parks. Each seat has its own individual seat belt. I've noticed these seat belts are super long, so you shouldn't have an issue with that. They can be kind of tricky to buckle though, so if you need some help, just ask a ride attendant, but these should be accommodating for pretty much everybody. Pteranodon Flyers is a ride that's really designed more for children, and as an adult you can only ride if you are accompanied by somebody between 36 and 56 inches tall. So how this ride system and restraint works, to me it's like a swing ride system. It really reminds me just of that. If you've ever rode a traditional like Zephyr or swing type ride, I fit okay. I just had to kind of like adjust my fat around. The bar though was kind of tight actually on my thighs, not so much my stomach, but I could definitely see it be a problem if you have a big stomach or big thighs because of how the front bar comes down. Other than that, it just fits like a traditional swing ride if you've ever rode one of those. Very similar. On to the Dr. Seuss rides, which would be the last 4 rides in Islands of Adventure. So this is the Carousel. So you have stationary seats, which are accommodating for absolutely anybody, and then you have the more moving seats, which are your traditional normal carousel, would be like horses. They have a belt or a rope, and it's not a very long belt, not a very long rope. It's really made more for kids. But stationary seats, any plus size person could ride on, just not the moving ones though. This is Cat in the Hat ride, which is a ride where you can ride with 3 people technically in a seat. It's a shared lap bar that will come down to the biggest rider. Personally, I only recommend 2 people for comfort, or you and 2 small children. Just for comfort, 2 would be better, or 2 small children, but it should accommodate you just fine. This is the High in the Sky Seuss trolley train ride. So you can have 2 people per seat here with an individual lap bar as pictured here. The seats are narrow, so for your comfort you can choose to ride with a small person or by yourself. But the lap bar just comes down to your stomach level, whatever that is. It's just that the seats are pretty narrow. This is One Fish, Two Fish, Red Fish, Blue Fish, and it is the last ride at Islands of Adventure. So this has a shared seatbelt that comes across the whole ride vehicle. Personally, I would just ride by yourself or a very small child, because to me the ride vehicle is just not very wide. I think the seat belt's long, but the ride vehicle itself is just pretty narrow, honestly. Then you may run into problems with fitting and comfort if you do have a bigger person with you or whatnot. So if you ride it just like that with a small child or by yourself, you should be absolutely fine. This concludes my video on the Universal Florida Resort with Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure theme parks in Orlando, Florida, and how you as a plus size rider may fit on the rides there. And again, 290 pounds is my stats at 5'6", bigger in the waist and hips and thigh area. So hopefully this will help you plan your adventure to know what rides to ride, which ones maybe to avoid. And I know that Universal is not exactly the most plus size friendly park, but I still think as a plus size person there's plenty to ride and you can still have a great time no matter what. If you did find this video helpful, please give me a sub and a like on this video. It does take me a lot of work into making one of these plus size riders videos. It's not a quick video to make, just because I want to make sure to research even though I've been to these parks before and rode these rides, just to make sure that I'm giving you the most updated, accurate information regarding test seats, any dimensions, things of that nature. So just any likes, comments, subscriptions would be greatly appreciated so I can keep making these videos. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments down below. And again, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day.